But yeah, Sean. Yeah. You do those lights like that, or do you gonna, Sean, turn off the lights like that?
Yeah?
Can we turn the lights off anymore? You good?
This one? The stage one.
This is problem. There we go. Yeah.
Perfect, yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you, Professor Brandt, for this opportunity. All good?
Yeah, but there's just one thing that sometimes happens with, okay. If you're gonna run videos, we're just gonna make sure
The audio is, yeah.
it goes off really loud.
I double check that as well. Yeah, thank you. So today, what we are going to learn kind of connected with your next assignment, which is film analysis. And I won't go in detail about myself. You can call me Shams. And if you have questions by the end of today's class, or you can even write to me, I'll share at the end of the slide a QR code if you have particular questions on the things that we will discuss today. So the bottom line is, we will learn today how to analyze / read cinema, films, productions. And I have joined IU, it has just been a year. It has been a wonderful journey, and I'm grateful to the professors, mentors, and students, classmates, and peers. Before moving on, I would like to let you all know that this particular assignment that we have this week, possibly, is on film analysis. And even if you don't have a filmmaking background, that's okay. We'll touch base, we'll get to know a little film language, how to approach, how to read cinema, how to look at particular scenes, how to connect the technical aspect with the narrative, with the other bigger aspects, thematic issues, and so on and so forth. But I would like to share, if you know, the graders for this class that you have, because they'll be grading your assignments, all are from film background. So they might be picky about your approach and language because you're writing on a cinema, right? And possibly it's Vertigo by Alfred Hitchcock. So I'll not reveal much about the assignment, but I'll give you some good starting points, hopefully. And I worked both of them, by the way. Fabi, it's her 5th film degree, 5th. And Jack is a wonderful professional cinematographer and editor. And we worked together in some film project last semester. And he's a pro. Like, it's not, he's a student only. He does things professionally. So reach out to them for any further inquiries, questions, or assistance that you will need. Cool? So let's get started. Before we begin, I need to know a little bit about you. Just a name, preferred name. You don't have to write your full name if you don't want to, and your preferred interest area. If you just scan it, I'll give you a minute before showing you what the board looks like when you scan it. It will take you to a page. You don't have to log in, no signing in required. You can write directly your preferred interest: filmmaking, journalism, public relations, anything that kind of makes you passionate about media school. We all could scan it. Then I can open the page, because once I switch from this board, you can no more scan it. Oh, good? We did? Cool. Oh, so many of you already started creating your own boxes. Nice. So the reason I'm doing it, it will give me an idea to what extent I should go with basics while talking about filmmaking, and to what extent I should test the mid-level, or can I do the advanced level of analyzing cinema. So we have, I'll just skim through it. We have people from sports media, marketing, broadcasting, journalism, sports media, film and TV, okay, advertising, sports. Nice. Graphics design, video production, filmmaking. Okay, so pretty mixed. Cinematography, political science, interesting. Filmmaking, okay. Interesting. So, I guess advertising is kind of on the line of being majority. That's what I can guess, which is also connected to productions. If you think of advertising as a media tool to tell stories for brands, for corporates, for local community. So it's kind of aligned with all the basics that we get from cinema. We tell stories, right? We communicate with people. So thank you for doing this little activity, and it will help me now to touch base. And let's begin. So the first thing is when we are analyzing a video production. I'll try not to use much cinema in my language. I'll rather use video production. And the way we approach video production, the aesthetics kind of, it derives from filmmaking practice, right? Because it's a storytelling practice. And before I start, I would like to let you all know the first step is to develop those senses, to develop those eyes, which will help you to notice something from one shot, from one scene, from one frame, something that stands out. Make sense what I'm saying? You cannot talk about when you're analyzing a film or a video production, you're writing about something, let's say this week's assignment. You cannot talk about everything that you see, light, camera, props, costume, camera positions, framing, character movements, sound design. You cannot talk about everything at the same time, right? But you gotta pick something to start with. So the first step is pick something that stands out. And the basic method of it is, let's say you have an assignment of a particular scene. You're watching it. Now, how will you start it? The first method I would propose, ask that question to yourself. Start with a question. Not necessarily you have to know the answer of the question. So we'll do a little exercise right now. We'll watch a sequence of film, and I would expect one question from that particular scene that makes you intriguing, like you would like to explore why that happened, why this is shown in this way. Whatever the question is, about sound design, about camera framing, about color tone, about certain props, whatever the question is. Come up with one question that you think stands out from that particular scene. Make sense? And the film I hope everyone has seen, it's the film The Joker, 2019 one, not this year. We all watched Todd Phillips' Joker? Most of you? Sure. Let's have a look at it. And after watching it, I'll get back to you and listen to your one question that you think stands out from this scene.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
It's certainly tense. People are upset. They're struggling. Looking for work. These are tough times. How about you? Have you been keeping up with your journal?
Husband,
Great. Did you bring it with you? Arthur, last time I asked you to bring your journal with these appointments. Can I see it?
I've been using it as a journal, but also as a joke diary. Funny thoughts and frustrations. Moving towards pursuing a career in stand-up comedy.
No, you didn't.
I think I did.
I just hope my death makes more sense than my life. How does it feel to have to come here? Does it help to have someone to talk to?
I think I felt better when I was locked up in the hospital.
And have you thought more about why you were locked up?
That's all. We saw one scene. So I'm getting back to all of you. Who'd like to share first? One question that you thought standing out from the scene that you're watching. Please go ahead.
Why was the lady's office so messy?
Why the office is so messy? So what does it refer to, or what kind of inferences you're getting from there? Lots of other patients are there. Lots of similar kind of patients are there. Could be. That's an interesting observation. What else? So that's the setting on props. Please.
And they also chose to make his handwriting super different from that line.
Uh-huh.
So I guess the stage.
Interesting observations. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know the answer, by the way? Awesome. And even if you don't know the answer, whatever questions you think is standing out, you can start with that when you're writing an analysis. Someone else. Please.
Throughout the entire scene, there was like the background music of like a steady movie.
Yeah. Beautiful. And what kind of, how would you define it? That steady bit.
It was like eerie almost, like holding suspense, I feel, or like it was like, it kind of like would beat and then when he would speak or say something, like it would stop for a second and pick up again.
So if I say that the beat was like tick, tock, like the clock beat. Am I wrong if I say that? Just
No,
asking.
I feel like it
Was it like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? The beat was like a clock moves. Wonderful. You get there. Someone else. Something else that stands out. Please.
One thing that kind of stood out to me was like that letter prop that he had handed to her. Like there was, the handwriting was very sloppy and there was an intentional misspelling, but like it was still a very profound thought.
Yep.
And kind of the dichotomies.
Yep. Interesting. Who else, please?
There were a couple of objects that were very clearly Mandela, which contradicted a lot of the other schemes, so I was just trying to find why this was.
Nice, thank you. That's a different direction when you talk about color. You can talk about the mediation that is happening, like the notebook, or the sound design. Someone else also raised hand. Please, yes?
There was one random high-angle symmetrical shot
Perfect, yeah.
that they never came back to, and no other shot was
Right. Interesting. So that's the question. Why we see, for example, when we're talking about shots, if you remember, we see the single character's close shot, that's the first shot of the scene, but quite close. But when the therapist or the psychiatrist or psychologist, that was not extremely close as like the protagonist's close shot was. So the question is why? Why the camera angles kind of inviting you to get into this mind of the character, to understand and know this character, because it's a character-based film, right? And the story moves through the character, with the character, by the character. Anyone else? Something else that stands out, please?
I noticed they cut to his legs announcing during the conversation.
Yeah, when it was trembling, right? And would you like to say why? If you know.
I thought they wanted to like show he was getting educated as the conversation went on, so that was kind of the way to do that.
It was telling his mental state through the leg movements, right? So we can come to this conclusion, whatever direction you're picking up, whatever angle you're picking up, whether sound, whether body language movement of the performer, or the shot division, you can always go from micro to macro. What is macro? The plot, the thematic issue, the bigger concern, what the story is about. Is there any connection you can draw? You may not know the questions that you raised in the beginning. The answer you may not know, that's okay. You can start with a question and think of that macro level, like the bigger question. What is the bigger thing in the film happening? And is there any connection? Can you bridge that? So the question that came to my mind when I first watched it, there's no right and wrong. It's just whatever hits you first, you start with that. Make sense what I'm saying? So at 2:35, the brightness is too low. Can you guys watch the clock at the back? There's a clock there. Right? Can you guys watch the time there? Is it visible to you? Who could say it out loud?
11:10.
Cool. Thank you. Now, the next scene. My question is why we have the same time? What does it mean? So, what is it is hinting at? And that's a question. I'm not saying I know the answer. Could be our character is in different time and space, is in a different mental state than audience or the therapist or other characters in the films. And that's why we may not understand the way his psyche functions and works. It's totally stopped. The time didn't move. It's a stopped shot, right? The time same as the previous. And we have our single character there. So that's one way we can start getting engaged with any scene, any video production. What is standing out? One interesting question that you think you can start with. The next step is moving on. Visual motive. So, by which I mean, is there any recurring pattern in the film that you are watching, or in the video, or in the production that you attempt to make? Is there any visual pattern? Is something being repeated? Trying to emphasize and highlight something again and again. So that's the question you can ask. And I'll show you one example. I'll not get into too much detail because it will be your assignment, but as I said earlier, I want to give you some starting point so that you can keep moving on from that direction. This is the film Vertigo by Alfred Hitchcock. And the first thing, it's fine, let that go. The first thing about Vertigo is that comes to my mind when I was watching it. Why the title is Vertigo? Does that have any connection with the theme, with the film, right? And if you can connect it, And then I'll move to the visual pattern or the sound design or the other aspect that you all just have talked right now.
These minor themes can also be represented in a spiral, and you can see just how perfect this motif is. Now, we have to talk about the title itself. Vertigo is a condition described as dizzying, swirling sensation as if the world around you is spinning. The spirals in the opening credits instantly evoke this sensation. But Hitchcock wouldn't be Hitchcock if he left it at that. Even before the movie truly begins, we hear the idea of vertigo. Listen to the mesmerizing melody in Bernard Herrmann's magnificent score. In fact, there are two scales being played, one ascending and one descending. The rising, falling, and repeating notes. It even sounds like a spiral. In the first 3 minutes, Hitchcock has already planted this idea in the title, music, and graphic design. He wants us to think about this shape so we can draw the connections when we see it later on. But this is just the beginning. There are spirals.
So we got the idea how title is aligned with the sound design, right? And by the way, when you're writing about any video production, mention the names. The way we just have heard. When it's talking about sound design, it has mentioned the name of the sound designer or the background scorer, right? So mention those names. If you're talking about cinematography, if you're talking about editing, just mention those names and just Google it up and you get it. So coming back to the point, the title is aligned vertical with the sound design style as well. It was not abrupt, it was a consciously chosen decision, right? And as reviewers, critiques, if you're a writer or if you're a maker, or when we are doing this assignment, our task is to connect these dots and to bridge it. So I'll move to now how this title, sound design, is connected with characters' movements, performance. Have you watched Vertigo, by the way? So we'll get an idea. It's interesting, superbly interesting. And after watching a few minutes that I'll show you right now, I'm sure you would be dying to watch it. Before I start the play button, I would like you all to know, here the film forces the audience to think and to see differently. So it's not revealing everything because it wants you to analyze it. That was the style of this film. So it's a perfect assignment for film analysis kind of a task. So watch it and you'll get an idea how Hitchcock designed the whole choreography of the performers.
It was this. Left to right is a natural order. We read that way, and so our eyes naturally want to move the camera that way.
Our protagonist, as you haven't watched, so just giving you some context, is a detective. And he's the main character, and he's following some cues and kind of revealing a case.
In Vertigo, moving left to right means telling the truth. Right to left means telling a lie. Often we see characters balancing in the center, unable to distinguish whether they're being truthful or deceiving one another. Now, this is a theory, but after watching the film again recently, I found plenty of moments to help back me up. Obvious moments, like Hitchcock's own cameo. As we can see, he moves from left to right, just before crossing paths with our main character, Scotty, who's moving right to left. He even goes so far as explaining the rule through dialogue. It's the first time we see Scotty on the left side of the frame, and he's near blatantly telling audiences how to navigate the rest of the film.
I have a theory. I think if I can get used to heights just a little bit at a time, just a little like that, progressive, You see, I'll show you what I mean.
So there it is, Scotty's natural order, left to right. But let's start at the beginning and see what happens when you go against the natural order. The first shot is at the last rung in the ladder. We see two fists come up, right, then left. At first glance, we're told something is wrong. The chase continues across rooftops, moving from right to left, with Stewart's character following behind. Immediately, we see Scotty afflicted with his disability. He's hanging off the edge of a high roof and cannot focus enough to save himself. A fellow police officer falls to his death, trying to save him, stacking guilt on top of Scotty's fear. But what does this all mean in terms of framing? We see three different men on a race for the left. The youngest, most athletic, is ahead and winning. Next is the older but able-bodied cop chasing his criminal. Then we meet our hero. He drags behind, does not fit the mold of cops versus robbers, and has a problem making the last jump, up and to the left. Visually speaking, he's chasing a lie, something unattainable. It is not Scotty's destiny or even his job to follow a criminal across rooftops. Hitchcock is telling us that our character is not only in the wrong place at the wrong time, but that he doesn't realize it yet. From this scene on, Scotty is seen on the right side of the frame. He's cosmologically stuck on this side of the frame because he won't accept the possibility of failure, that he hasn't achieved his destiny, or that he may never will, or that his dream is even wrong in the first place.
She was a bright young lawyer who decided he was going to be chief of police someday.
Our first female role, Midge, is introduced on the left side of the frame. Not only is she a former love interest,
Oh, Johnny.
she's also an artist, which will come to play an important role in the concepts of fiction presented later. Midge is the voice of reason. She's on the left because left to right means telling the truth. However, Scotty can't accept that yet. He's seen pointing his new cane at the center of the frame, attacking the left, attacking Midge, while the two of them argue over what he'll do with the rest of his life. Scotty's frustrated, but he hasn't accepted the fact that he could be wrong yet, that his life of chasing criminals may be over forever. At one point, Scotty points to a brazier on the left-hand side of the frame where Midge is blocked. He asks about the design, and Midge answers that it's based off the physics of the cantilever bridge, known for having support on only one side of its structure. And if you say it fast enough, it sounds like she's saying the can't leave her bridge.
Works on the principle of the cantilever bridge.
Yeah? Which directly foreshadows Scotty's inability to forget about Madeline later in the film. Notice how he points down and to the left. The next important scene has Scotty talking to what will prove to be the man who deceives him. An old friend asks Scotty to do a favor.
I want you to follow my wife. No, it's not there.
Sounds simple enough until he mentions,
I'm afraid some harm may come to her.
oh,
Someone did.
for almost the entire scene, Scotty is placed on the left side of the frame. He's only been here once before, but it looks comfortable for him. He's lost his cane, he's confident again, he should be ready for a new journey. A real journey from left to right.
Well, I guess that just about covered everything.
Though his potential is quickly interrupted by his friend's request.
I'm supposed to be retired. I don't want you mixed up in this darn thing. Look,
If you watch this scene again, you'll see that as soon as Scotty agrees to his friend's request, he's placed on the opposite end of the frame. More hints are given here as Scotty's pleading friend is consistently placed in front of the many paintings on the wall behind him. The room is full of different pictures and paintings, art and fantasy. Hitchcock frames him purposely this way because he's trying to tell us that this man is lying. This man is slowly building a fictional frame around himself and his lies in order to eventually frame Scotty. For a majority of the film, Scotty is seen following Madeline. She's consistently on the left side of the frame as Scotty is always on the right side and watching her.
So getting back to the discussion, what we have just seen, was it interesting? Have you ever thought of a film sequence like that? Or have you read in that way the way this composition happens, right? And it's connected. We talked about the title, the sound design, and the way the composition is exercised, right? We have Scotty and this left to right or right to left journey has been intentionally, consciously framed And as a reviewer, if you're writing about it, you gotta connect these dots. Make sense? So the way it is termed in terms of language when we write, it's called blocking. This last thing that we just have seen when we were talking about left to right, left to right. So the characters' positions, blocking is I'm moving from here to here, you're moving from here to here, that's called blocking. And similar kind of technical terms when we write about or talk about film or a video production or even in advertising or even in journalistic video or doc film, we need to know certain languages, certain technical language to speak about our video that will help us kind of frame and concretize our thoughts, whatever we're thinking. So I'll get you some languages. We will get to know how we can talk about particular scenes, what are the special kind of terms we need to know, and that's what I'm going forward to share a few examples of different kind of special effects I won't use. I mean, it's not a visual effect. It's effect as in the effect of the video production on the audience. And as a reader or a viewer, when you are trying to analyze what kind of language you need to use. And now we'll have a look at an example by Hitchcock. Again, Shadow of a Doubt. How many of you have watched? Yeah. So you don't have to know the whole film to see the scene that we are trying to analyze. And I'll get back to you after this, by the way. And my question to you would be, do you guys know what is fourth wall? Anyone would like to share? Please.
It's basically like the audience, right? So there's like 3 walls in the scene, and
Right.
the audience of 4.
Correct. Correct. We all know about it? It's a pretty common term for theater stage performances or for filmmaking as well. So when you see Deadpool talking to the camera, mostly he does, by the way. I would say before that, no superhero did that. You know, talk to the camera and talk to the audience directly, kind of getting out of the character. Whatever is happening with them in the film, in the plot, in the script, he gets out of it and talks to the audience. So that's the fourth wall. 3 walls are like this, and fourth is the audience that I have right in front of me. Kind of the stage setting. Makes sense what I'm saying? So when a character breaks the fourth wall, and why that happens, or why that is intentionally performed, that's my question to all of you for this particular scene that we will watch right now. Cool? And the reason of choosing this one, only one thing stands out in this particular scene that we'll see. We'll not have actually, honestly said, we'll not have different opinions that color stood out, cinematography stood out, performance stood out, sound design stood out. No, it's gonna be one thing. The way it is framed, the way it is designed. And I'll get back to you. I'm sure everyone will say that one thing.
You talk to the ladies. Charles,
It's a dining sequence.
Charles, I promised Mrs. Green the president of our club that you'd talk to the ladies, and she wants to know what you're going to talk about.
Well, what am I going to talk about? Lectures usually give them travel or current events, don't they?
Oh, Charles, not current events. We get current events.
What sort of an audience would be?
Old women like myself, busy with our homes, most of us.
Women keep busy in towns like this. The cities is different. The cities are full of women, middle-aged widows, husbands dead, husbands who've spent their lives making fortunes, working and working. Then they die and leave their money to their wives, their silly wives. What do the wives do, these useless women? You see them in the hotels, the best hotels every day by the thousands. Drinking the money, eating the money, losing the money at bridge, playing all day and all night, smelling of money. Proud of their jewelry, but of nothing else. Horrible. Faded, fat, greedy women.
They're alive, they're human beings.
Are they?
We got the shot. Question, is it standing up? So we have a pretty usual dining sequence. But suddenly, I'll just show it again a little bit. Suddenly we see a zooming shot or a tracking shot, right? When he's giving his monologue.
Faded, fat, greedy women.
They're alive, they're human beings.
Are they?
And the next shot is actually, he's not looking at the audience. He's looking at the character, the other character he's talking to. But it is framed in a way which will give you an essence or a vibe that it's talking to you. So my question is, why do you think this style? I should give you a little context. So he's actually the character. I'm going to tell you, if I remember, right? And he's a serial killer. But his niece in California, where he came to visit, no one knows actually about it. So that's the context. And he kills a particular kind of woman. And we can see with the statement also the way he thinks, the way his mind functions, his kind of opinion, which is an extremely biased, prejudiced, misogynist, whatever. But let's talk about the style of it. Anyone would like to share why we see that treatment in this visual? Why the fourth wall was broken?
It's a lot more unnerving.
Sorry?
It's a lot more like unnerving in a sense.
Uh-huh.
Because it makes it feel like more he's talking to you. And also the shots just kind of weird and creepy.
So the same thing, you got it actually. If you have to put it in a language, I would say, do you think you can say that, is it immersive, kind of dragging you in his mind and getting you to know him, right? So you can use, that kind of approach, that why this fourth wall is broken, it's kind of inviting the audience. It's kind of immersive. It's immersing you. Is it?
Yeah.
Anyone else would like to share something else? Any other point of view? No? While talking about these technical terms, so we just have seen a zoom shot, a tracking shot, and the fourth wall was broken, talking to the audience. And then we come back to the natural tempo, natural pacing, the dynamic sequence. So that one kind of technical language. I would also like to highlight in this regard that, as I started in the beginning, how we connect these micro little things with macro, bigger thematic plot line or character designs. So this journey from micro to macro, always keep it in mind. You start with something little and you expand it. So when you're writing about it or speaking about it, you're also zooming out, tracking out, not tracking in. Right? You start with one, and then you kind of unfold it, and it gets bigger. The whole writing that you're writing, the whole assignment, even if you're making a podcast, the way you design your writing structure, you are unfolding it and making it bigger and bigger and bigger. So now the question is, the Shadow of a Doubt, that film, we saw that one zoom tracking shot, and we saw the fourth wall was broken, but we kind of try to connect it with the character, how it is connected with the serial, how it is connected with the whole film, his mindset. Because the whole film is about his this kind of attitude towards women that he has. It's one single shot, but that's a micro thing you start talking about. But you can always go bigger and your writing can become macro. So always bridge it. Don't leave it like that. It's like musical orchestra. You're playing it, don't leave a note right away. Complete the whole rhythm. Make sense? The next film is Bicycle Police. And one of my favorites as well. Have you watched guys? What we will see here, three kind of technical terms I'll give you right away before we watch it, so that we can watch it with that lens. And those three terms are high angle shot. And when We use it for our own purposes, whether for journalistic or video productions, for advertising, and how it is used in the film. High angle, low angle, and another is establishing shot. These three terms, some basic terms. By the way, when you watch a film and if you have to write about a film, look up all these technical languages. The name of the editing cuts, we should know. The name of some basic short listings, we should know, right? So a little language will help you, as I said, to write about, to approach any video production. So coming back to the point, do we all know what is establishing shot? Please?
It's the shot that shows off what the location is.
The location is nice, yeah. The landscape, the setting, the whole location, including characters. It may be. What is the high angle shot? Someone else would like to share? High and low, we can talk at the same time. Anyone knows what is a high angle, please? Yeah.
It's just a shot from a high angle, a shot from
Yeah, it's quite literal.
Yeah.
And do you know when it is used usually?
I don't know what to talk, but like high angle shots are sometimes used to make characters feel small, and the opposite for low angle shots, because it's like towering over you versus like below you.
Naturally, it's quite the physics, the way it works. So if you put a camera there, your subject will look smaller. If you put a camera here, I'll look quite bigger. That's how the composition will look like. And now we'll try to connect these micro things with the macro, as I just said, with the bigger thing. The thematic issue in a film, the plot. I'll give you the context. So let's watch that particular one little scene. A little background. It is set right after the Second World War when there is an extreme job crisis set in Italy. That's the first shot of the film, by the way. It didn't start with establishing shot. When you see the whole city, town from a drone shot, or even a long wide shot, which we call establishing shot. The first shot is a mid shot from low angle, which is intriguing. We have establishing shot, but in the second. So what I'm trying to highlight here, the composition of it, the arrangements. Make sense what I'm saying? You start with the establishing shot, then you go closer. That's the traditional style. So the question that came to my mind, why we have establishing shot not in the beginning, but in the second shot? It didn't start the other way, right? It started with someone is looking for Richie, and started with a mid shot in low angle.
Anna, madonna, ma che stai su? Anna. Qui con me, come se possibile, io ce l'ho fatto proprio mia. Un po' di pazienza e vedremo di sistemare tutti qua. Io sto qua per questo. Vediamo un po' quello che si può fare. A riccia e poi attacchino. Per rappresentarci in trasmissione. Gli dai sta carta e te porti di prima. C'è niente per noi. Mannaggia la miseria. E qua, per noi. Ci sono due posti per tornitori, ma qui i tornitori non ce ne stanno. E se io non sono tornitore devo seguire sta qui a fare la multa. Allora, che ti vuoi sposare con me? Ari, ricordati di portare la bicicletta. E c'è la bicicletta. Che sta scritto per lì, no? La bicicletta. Ce l'ho e non ce l'ho. Subito, no? La posso avere tra un po' di giorni. No, ce l'ho subito, se no non ti vedo. E non è uguale. Questi primi giorni faccio il servizio a piedi. Parliamoci chiaro, lì ce l'hai o non ce l'hai sta bicicletta? Se non ce l'hai bisogna avere posto là. Ce l'hai la bicicletta? E che ce l'hai solo tu la bicicletta? Ce l'ho pure, ma tu sei volatore, sei dell'altra categoria. E cambia le categorie. Ma non c'è può. Allora lì sta bicicletta c'è sta o non c'è sta?
Cesa, stamattina per così. Ho un po' coglionato, se non ti presenti con la bicicletta non c'è niente da fare. Perché ti aspetta l'altro qua? Mi presento con la bicicletta, non c'è niente, mi presento. Certo, come a lavorare per 2 giornate al cantiere del tuo ferro, si va.
Now, question to you. Why do you think we see that composition, high and low end? And we had one step position on the middle. But what is highlighted, the high and low end? Please, yes?
I feel like it represents power.
Interesting. What kind of power?
Yeah, like if you're looking down on people, you have to.
So in social class.
Yeah.
Because there are various ways to address power. So when you talk about power relationship, now we're talking about economic power relationship. The racial class, someone is looking for a job, another one is providing a job, right? And which is beautifully portrayed with these two technical approach or treatment, high and low angles. And if you're thinking of journalistic documentary, you're thinking of an advertising video production, you can think of this interesting treatment, how you want to visualize your story. Make sense what I'm saying? Any questions so far? A few more interesting technical terms. That we'll cover right now. Before that, I'll remind you again, the only problem when we start writing or making film or video productions for any purposes, we get stick to that micro level and we kind of forget to bridge it for the macro, for the bigger picture. So when you ask yourself, why? As a maker, you may know how it happens, or by the time you get to know it with practice. Why matters. Then you can connect it with the bigger thing, with the title, with the beat, with the sound design. Everything will fall into perfect block. Make sense? So now we'll talk about 180-degree rule, another interesting special treatment in cinema. Anyone heard about it earlier? What is 180-degree rule? Oh, interesting. Please, would you like to share?
Is it when you only stay on one plane and you don't spin around to the other side of the plane?
You don't spin around. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you're right. So we'll get to know two things right now. Yes, we don't spin around, but when can we? There are instances as well when we can do that, when we can break 180-degree rule. So I'll show you both. So the first reference is what is 180-degree rule, so you get an idea with this little example.
line runs across the table through Pacino to De Niro. Look at their eyes. Pacino looks camera right. De Niro looks camera left. You do this so that the viewer can attain a sense of orientation during the scene. It looks like they're looking at each other. Oh, that's an interesting point. But what happens when you have more than two?
So it's also, you might have known the term suspension of disbelief. You use it, this 180-degree rule, so that the audience do not think an acting is going on. They can think it's natural what's happening on screen and on stage. You're suspending that disbelief from the audience by making a fiction. Everyone knows that they came to watch a fiction. Make sense what I'm saying? So that's the rule of 180-degree rule. Now when you break it, and why? Most interesting question is why we break it.
Here, you can see Goebbels' eye line is headed from left to right. When we switch behind directly, caught off guard, E from eat, De Niro has been caught off guard by an attractive woman. Is she an undercover cop? Maybe FBI? Or even an assassin?
Lady, why are you so interested in what I read or what I do?
But once he's convinced she's a bookstore employee, we see that transformation play out visually.
I don't mean to be rude, I didn't recognize it.
The camera crosses the line.
My name's Neil.
We have moved from the backs of our characters to the front, away from danger and suspicion to a place of openness.
So here, 180-degree rule is broken. You all got it? With a particular purpose, for a particular effect. So you don't just do it right away, but you do it with intention, because the character's state or plane has shifted as well from disbelief to belief. Make sense what I'm saying? Yeah? And just to refer to your spinning shot, one of the most interesting Joker sequence about spinning shot is this one. So we have the spinning shot here, and the way it is used, it's very tough to use a spinning shot for whatever purpose you're planning for it. The most important thing for a spinning shot is not the spin, but the cut. If the cut goes wrong, the spinning shot that you've taken, you cannot use it too. And you'll see how the cut happens in this case.
You are beautiful.
Now let's look at a great example of how to edit around a spinning camera. So the camera is constantly crossing the axis in one shot in real time, which, like I said earlier, is not a problem. But where does the editor, Lee Smith, finally cut in? Here. The edit happens when both shots are on the same side of the axis, so it doesn't feel abrupt when the perspective changes. It's also edited on a particular action, when the Joker grabs Rachel and threatens her with a knife. So even though the shot changes, it feels like one motion. And when the shot goes back to spinning, it starts on the same side before it crosses the line again. It basically keeps up this pattern every time it cuts, and it always happens on the same side. So when you're watching it, you're not really seeing the edit. It fades away. When the edit is bad, it stands out.
I say yes.
So you see, the cut matters for a spinning shot. And it has to be on the same axis. So any video production is not only about aesthetics without physics, math, right? And we'll get to know more treatments and interesting style by filmmakers. One of the interesting aspect of this film, have you watched Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee? And we'll see how technical approach that we kind of have been dealing today connects with the thematic or bigger issues. So let's say for Do the Right Thing, it's the racial tension that you'll see the sequence that I was present right now, and how the camera position, lens, angle that we discussed after watching it portrays that racial tension.
No service till you turn that shit off! 2 slices. Yeah! There's a radio out here. I can't even hear myself speak! You understand me? You understand me, my customers? Fight the power! Fight the power! Two slices. You come into Sal's, there's no music. No rap, no music, no music, no music. Kavish? Understand?
Who knows the name of this shot? It's not a regular traditional close shot. You see the closed face of the character. Do we know the name of it? Please. Sorry, I couldn't. Oh, interesting. Okay. Anyone else? I'll share the name of the shot. Huh? It has the fisheye effect, that's true. But the shot is not named fisheye shot. But it has that angle. It has the fisheye angle that you usually use with GoPro. Please.
Is it the Dutch angle?
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. It's called Dutch angle shot. Why? I don't know. You can look it up. Why the title is called Dutch angle shot. But this film, and particularly Spike Lee's treatment, is quite outstanding, and he's famous for kind of introducing a new approach every time he approaches the thematic issue with characters. And here we see a close shot, but it has a little fisheye effect, that's true. But when you're using this kind of languages while writing about it, imagine you are finding it hard to explain, but when you know the right term of it, it's right away you finish the sentence, right? It's a Dutch angle shot. It's quite clear then. But if you don't know it, then you have to write 3 more sentences. It has the fisheye effect, it was close, it was a blurry outside, it was a little angular, it was not straight, and so on and so forth. But when you know the term, it makes it easy. Right? So we are trying to connect why these treatments are used. So now the question is, before moving on to the next, just giving you this starting point, how we can connect this micro to the macro. Like, why Dutch angle shot is used. Let's talk about that. It's not about only using something that you feel interesting, but it has to have a meaning, right? Anyone would like to share why we see this kind of please?
I think they're used more for altercations or when characters are fighting to kind of create a sense of I guess it's like thing that looks off and situations also off as well. It's kind of like gives you
Brilliant, yeah. Right. And please, yes. Interesting. So we have a heated situation here as well. Anyone else?
To put into the other person's perspective.
Right, awesome, yes. Right, because they're I mean, it's kind of a POV shot. It's not a close shot without the person's point of view. So many things happening here outside weather that you mentioned. There's a little heated tension within the framing. Then we have this point of views of 2 people, how they see each other, which is not straight, rather quite full of tensions. The relationship between the 2 characters, please.
In a more like literal sense, it also shows like a difference between the 2 characters. Like in the shot of the sword, and it's like a high angle.
There's a little high and low angle happening as well here, which also relates to what we had discussed earlier in bisecutives, a little bit of power relation. But in this case, it's not economic power relation that you're talking about, but there is a tension within the racial power relationship that's happening on screen with the technicalities Spike used. Make sense?
He is actually trying to make the economic point as well, because this, basically you've got this grandfathered in Italian pizza place in,
Right.
in a mostly African-American neighborhood. So there's this notion that he's trying to hang on, he's small, he's got the business, but you've got this large African-American guy who's coming in and like, I'm really the one that's in charge, but who really is in charge? So there's this massive tension going back and forth.
Right. Interesting. Thank you so much, Professor. It's so many things in one scene. And the most interesting thing is when you see from these technical aspects and you connect these micro issues to the macro. Even if you haven't watched the film, my question to all of you is, I'm assuming it, correct me if I'm wrong, we get the idea, the way it is exercising certain issues and speaking to you, right? We don't know the context, we haven't watched the film, I got it. But with this kind of analysis that we're doing right now, is it helping you, my question to you is, to understand the way these kind of aesthetics function and you can approach while writing about it. Okay? So with this particular example, it's perfect time to move on what we know as the geometric shots. Whether symmetrical or asymmetrical. These are just images. I'm not doing anything right now, but the next slide will show you some examples of shots used for particular effects, for particular meaning. And the compositions are not necessarily, it has to be symmetrical always. So that's probably from Wolf of Wall Street. Forgot, yes. That's still film. So we see asymmetrical shots as well. where the composition is speaking to you about something. It's not about only the shot. You can say, you can present 3 close shots, 3 mid shots, but because of the composition, it can speak something else. And I'll get back to some film examples right now. But before showing you the examples, 2 terms I would like to introduce. One is mise en scène. Who can explain the term?
It's the placement of everything that's on set. It's like the props, the characters, and the actors.
Thank you.
Camera space.
Anyone else would like to share something else? You're right, actually. Whatever we see inside this frame on screen is called mise en scène. Now, what do I mean by whatever? Props, costume, character movement, sound design, light, composition, with a symmetrical or asymmetrical, whatever the geometric shot is. Whatever we see is mise en scène, and how that speaks to each other. Another word is montage. Anyone knows what is a montage? Please. It's a term particularly used in film studies or filmmaking.
But that's not specific.
Please.
Isn't it just a bunch of like shots in a sequence showing like progression or something? Like
You're close, yes.
like a montage of like I don't know, like soccer practice, like everyone going to shoot the ball and stuff like that. They're very short clips.
That is also called B-rolls. What you're saying, if I'm getting it right.
Yeah.
Do you know B-rolls?
Yeah.
Yeah? So the difference with B-rolls and montage is, the literal meaning is assembling. So try to get this, one shot, another shot. Montage is in between. The way you assemble it, that is called montage. The way you add it. So you're adding, the best example for montage is the theory is called Kudosov effect. Just giving you some example. One is, the theory is like this. So you take a shot of my face, and if you place that shot with a close shot of grilled cheese burger or sandwich, then the meaning would be is equal to, maybe I'm hungry. The third shot would mean that I'm hungry. So that means when you merge 2 shots, it creates a meaning. So that's montage, assembly. Creates a new meaning, which has nothing to do with my closure of the face, nothing to do with the food shot that you have taken. It means it gives a different feeling. I'm hungry. Make sense what I'm saying? Let's say same shot without changing an expression. Same shot you took. And then the next shot is a funeral, a dead body in a coffin. The meaning changed. The same close shot of face. Now you'll not say I'm hungry. You'll say I'm sad, I'm mourning. So the meaning changes based on the way you assemble. That's called montage. Make sense? You got the definition? Awesome. So now we'll look at a few new styles. We talked about a little bit of composition, framing, shots. Try to look at the use of lens that changes meaning. And then we'll also, if we get time, we'll get to that point, how assembling changed meaning as well. Kind of the example that I just said to you. But we'll start with lens, because I skipped it. What kind of lenses we use and how it changes the meaning. And how it is aligned with the discussion we had on symmetrical and asymmetrical compositions.
Which gives weight to the frame. This shot emphasizes the symmetry between the man and the woman, with the child in the middle as a fulcrum. But that's a very controlled shot. Even a wild shot like this has asymmetrical balance. The man with the mask in the foreground is balanced by the man on the chair in the background. with the radial pattern below for added texture. This shot has a sense of balance, staged in deep space, where the scene places elements both far and near to the camera, drawing attention to the distance between them, from the people in front of the scene who are talking about the child, all the way back to the child in the window, whom the scene is about. Scenes can also be staged.
So deep space, just giving you the term, is you can only create deep space with a deep focus lens. It's called deep focus. And now another example is shallow focus for shallow space. Deep as in when everything is unblurred, visible. My background as well. So the previous example you have seen, or from the Citizen Kane, we can see the kid out of the window, quite clear and in focus, whereas we had three characters right in front of the camera, right?
In shallow space. This scene is staged flatly, emphasizing the closeness of the subject and background objects, or even implying no depth at all. There's also one of the most important spaces, the off-screen space, where a scene draws attention to something out of the frame. This shot uses a mirror to expand the space that this man is sitting in. And this shot uses a look and an actor's performance to imply something huge out of the frame. An actress.
So let's say you don't have access to all kinds of lenses. You don't have access to expensive gears. We do have, by the way, if you want to rent from media school equipment. What I was trying to say, we just have seen off-screen space. How do you create that? With the actor's performance, you can also create that. Not necessarily you have to use a lens. With the character's performance, you can create that off-screen or the mirror shot we just have seen, right? Right here. Off-screen as in something that is not in the frame, in the back, but you're creating that space through the mirror. Make sense what I'm saying? Before I move to montage, the Kuleshov effect that I just explained a little ago, you can see the visual right now. I would like to kind of have a concluding note on the mise-en-scène aspect. What we have discussed since the beginning till now is part of the mise-en-scène. We talked about sound design, we talked about the title, we talked about the character movement, framing, if you're writing about vertigo. It's the mise-en-scène that is on stage and that is performing, kind of talking to you, giving you messages. And you are like Sherlock Holmes, reading between the lines, decoding the messages, connecting the dots and the bridges. And the journey would be always from one micro thing to a macro, which is perhaps the story, perhaps the theme, perhaps the plot, narrative, whatever the bigger issue this film is speaking to. And we have seen several examples how we connect that micro to macro. No questions on that? Let's have a look at now this in-between, assembling, how this assemble can change the meaning.
Seductive girl on the couch. Now, he showed this film to audiences, and they raved about the range of emotion he had to portray, from pensiveness and hunger at the thought of long forgotten soup, to sadness and mourning at the loss of a loved one taken far, far too early, to lust and forbidden desire over the beautiful, sexy girl. Even though we know.
I'll cut short because we are kind of almost running out of time. So we got an idea of montage. Any questions on montage? We got how we assemble and the meaning changes. We got an idea of mise-en-scène, which includes everything that we talked about, camera, sound design. Now I would take it a little bit to the next stage of film analysis, which is called comparative analysis. If you are a beginner writer, I would definitely recommend start with one scene. Then you do a whole film. And then if you think you already did those steps, those are done, then start comparative analysis. Why we see different earlier film references in certain contemporary films. Ask these questions to yourself. Have you guys watched Barbie? Most of you, nice. So we'll see a little bit from that film and the introduction, the opening shot of that film. My question to you is, you don't have to answer it, just take it home with you and think about it. Do you know, you can say yes or no, do you know why it kind of gave a tribute to Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick's, in the opening shot? You know? How many of you know that? Okay, so let's have a look at it. Thank you. Just 30 seconds.
Since the beginning of time, since the first little girl ever existed, there have been dolls. But the dolls were always and forever baby dolls. Until
Who would like to share why we see this exact reference? Please.
Okay, so in 2001, the model theory is like it takes the apes of the day towards like humanity, so it's a big it's a sign of progress and a catalyst for progress. Whereas the Barbie and the Garden movie is like, yes, we're going from this baby doll to this like humanity. If you really want to get into it, like more people.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful explanation. Now, when you'll be watching Vertigo, have you guys watched Parasite by Bong Joon-ho? Many of you did, right? Because it's a contemporary one. It has taken a lot of references from Vertigo. Short division, compositions, the way I have shown you some tips on Vertigo. So my final concluding note for all of you would be, the interesting thing is not about knowing an answer, but knowing how to ask a question. And once you can do that, get caught. You don't have to know the answer. We've come up with interesting, insightful, exciting, and intriguing questions that will help you set the ground for whatever video production you're analyzing or writing or making. Cool. And the final slide is for you. That is just 10 seconds, guys. If you scan
I know you definitely heard about our awesome small group training. Let's take a look at
It is good.
The final slide is, if you scan it, you will have access to what I just have shown to you. So it give you the slide link. And I would request you, while you'll be writing your assignment, go through it again, watch these videos if you need to. I haven't shown you all the clips. You can watch it back and forth. And I hope you get a wonderful assignment and you can crack it. Thank you.
Before you're all take off, I just want to mention a couple things. One, if you want to be any kind of production, actor, PR, filmmaking, game design, whatever it is, what they will tell you in these fields is watch more films, read more books, take more vacations, and go places. Okay? Experience is what makes you good at doing this stuff. Shams did an amazing job of showing you the tools. The way you use these tools effectively is to have experiences that you can use those tools to express on your own. Okay, so I just want you to keep that in mind. It's not just about knowing how to use these tools, it's about knowing what to put into those frames and how to put them together. So please do think about that. Just having a set of skills doesn't mean anything if you don't know what to do with them. Okay? But otherwise, thank you so much, Sean. Really good job.